Around 600,000 Canadians identify as neurodivergent, and this can include autism, ADHD, or dyslexia. And many of them are having a hard time at work, trying to keep up with tasks and workflows that do not support the way that their brain functions. So here to tell us more about this is Vaishali Joshi, who is a corporate wellness strategist. Welcome to your morning.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Big topic. We're going to take a little piece of it this morning. Being neurodivergent can look different for everybody, but typically, how does it show up in the workplace?
So depending on what exactly that brain type is, whether you have ADHD, you have autism, you could be dyslexic, and there's a couple of others like Tourette's, you may appear in the workplace as overwhelmed. And overwhelmed often looks like being silent in meeting rooms or smiling and looking as if you understand everything that's going, even though your brain is wandering.
Yeah.
So those people will hesitate to ask questions because they might have missed out some of what's been going on. You'll often find that they're pulling long hours to do certain tasks that you and I might do differently.
Right.
And then that leads to burnout. So you might see someone who's doing something for long periods of time and is, feeling overworked.
There's a name for those behaviors. It's called masking. It's just one of the ways that people who are neurodivergent cope in the workplace. Can you give us some more examples of what that could look like and the toll that it takes on the person who's doing the masking?
Yes. So masking shows up in different places, in different ways. And, some people mask knowingly, knowing that they are on the spectrum, and some will mask unknowingly. I'm an example of someone who masked for years without knowing. And so when they're masking, they're doing things like nodding, smiling, saying everything's fine, because they don't want to alarm anybody about, hey, I don't have this under control. So that's a certain type of masking. Another way of masking is actually cleaning up your desk and making sure that it looks just like everybody else's. And so you just want to have other people perceive you to be as they are. And so they're incessantly behaving in ways that don't come naturally, which is a lot of pressure.
I was going to say, so then talk to me about the flip side of that. What does that do to the person who is constantly masking for up to 8 hours a day?
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of our mental health suffers. So you'll start to see anxiety, which then leads to depression, which they may mask again.
Yeah.
And it's this cycle that they're in.
Without knowing that somebody is experiencing this, that either they're neurodivergent or masking or experiencing the burnout that comes with that, what can companies or teams do to better support employees who are neurodivergent?
So there are two key parts that leaders and organizations can look at. One is communication, and the other is making sure that they accommodate, so flexibility, giving these two elements and accommodating people in both of those respects. So I'll say things like communication looks like after a meeting, making sure that the minutes are rendered in a way that that person is receptive to. So how would you like your minutes given to you? In what structure works for you? But giving them minutes thereafter, if they've tuned out or have been distracted during a meeting, helps them. That's one way. Another is time management tools. So things like, there are boards like Trello and Asana, and those are technologies that are very flexible in the way that they record data and keep people organized. So those are tools that are really great for those people. So that's technology and communications. On the flip side, when you talk about flexibility, there's things like what schedule works for you.
Right.
Do you prefer to be remote or in person? When you're in the room, like what are you better in the mornings, in the afternoons? Just understanding what is that cycle that they are more distracted, less distracted in.
When you talk about communication, communication is a two-way street. What is the responsibility on the person who is neurodivergent to communicate that to leaders or managers, that this is how I learn, perceive information, and then working with them to make sure they get what they need?
Yes. So right now, I would say is a really great time for all of us to actually become very, what I call neuro-inclusive. Is starting to have conversations, not just because you are neurodivergent, but because we all are either menopausal, there's a lot of us in the workforce like that, or we are of 5 different generations, so we think differently. So it's a good time for all of us to be in a room and not just call out, are you neurodivergent? But if you are on the spectrum, a good conversation always is advocate for yourself and say, this is how I think, this is what I'm good at. I'm good at patterning or detail. I'm not good at this. And this way, your manager knows where the help is needed.
Well, then the manager can give you the information that you need to do the job well, which at the end of the day is the goal for everybody.
Yes.
Vaishali, thank you so much for being here today. Fascinating topic.
Thank you.